Health and Military Performance, also known as CHAMP, of the Uniformed Services University of Health and Science, known as USUHS, is conducting a study to understand a possible genetic link between sickle cell trait, known as SCT, and exercise-related events, known as EREs, such as exertional rhabdomyolysis, muscle damage, heat stroke, and or collapse. We are inviting African-American men and women with sickle cell trait and their family members to participate. Participating in the study will require you to complete a health history questionnaire, a form authorizing our study physician to gather health information from you and your healthcare provider, as well as a one-time blood donation. In order to qualify for the study, you must meet the following criteria: be African-American, be sickle cell trait positive, be able to read, speak, and understand English, be between the ages of 18 and 80, and currently not being treated for any mental or psychological disorders. Participation is completely voluntary, and your decision will not impact your healthcare. The results for this study are for research purposes only and are not intended to directly benefit any individual for confidentiality reasons. However, the results of this study are intended to help better shape policies and associated health risks affecting the SCT community. Participants may be compensated for their time. To join the study, or if you would like additional information regarding the study, please contact the study team by phone, area code 240-479-9514, or email sctstudy-ggg@usuhs.edu.
The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Straight up. Go out to LA. The new anthem. California Love Part 2. One time. To live in LA. West side. West side. West side. To live in Don LA, where everybody try to fatten their pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing, currency chasing. Worldwide through the hard times, worrying faces. Shed tears as we bury brothers close to heart. What was a friend, now a ghost in the dark.
Well, hello. God bless you, community family, and welcome to Gang Talk. We're so happy if you're paying attention, because if you are, you know how important this hour is. And if you believe in what we do, you need to spread that message that we really need to get involved to help ourselves save our own children. So God bless you once again, and thank you for paying attention. Thank you for paying attention. So it is our practice through the years to thank our guests from last week. So I always like to thank those especially that have been on the front line with us continuously. And our guest last week was Andre Christian, and he brought Ramon Hodge with him. And we just had that kind of black man up kind of talk that one of the, I've known Andre for many years. And what really captured my attention was the Project Fatherhood that he and Mike Cummings were running out in Jordan Downs. And it really touched my heart because they actually had the young people in the room, and they had the room was full. It was full. And the other thing was it was full of OGs trying to tell them don't do what we did. So that's a gift I don't get to see too often. But once I saw them doing it, Andre became one of my adopted children. So that's how it works. Sister goes around adopting these men that are in the cause to turn things around, and he's one of my children. With his mom's permission. Okay, always with his mom's permission. So we thank Andre for coming last week and bringing Ramon. And we're going to keep doing that. And before we get started in the show, I do want to say, I have been announcing that I am closing out at the end of this year, effective December 31st. And so we're trying to cram as much information as we can from the community before we close this door. And, of course, nobody wants me to close the door. Okay, but I want them to understand. My seat can be filled. Okay? It can be filled. So the 1st of October, we're going to do something I've been wanting to do for many years, since we started on radio in 2009. And we've been with Morris Media since January of 2016. So the first week of October, we want to have a call-in show. We want the community to make contact with us, let us know how they feel about this. If they have solutions, if they have a comment, this is what we want to do. We want to get that shared contact. So that'll be the first show in October. So set yourself for that and get your questions ready. So God bless you once again and welcome to the show. As you can see, we have two beautiful ladies in the house, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Janet Kelly, and I'm the Executive Director of Sanctuary of Hope. And what we do is provide housing and education stabilization services for transitional age youth between the ages of 16 and 25.
Hi, my name is Angel Smith. I'm one of the youth that they help for Sanctuary of Hope. I'm currently living at Bridge Housing. And I'm 22 years of age and, currently trying to look for a place to stay. Because I am homeless, but they are helping me with that as I should be receiving a Section 8 voucher through them as well.
Well, you know what, and I don't really mean to, I'm just amazed at 22 that you're having this problem, just as amazed as I am that there is a need for transitional youth to have housing, and we're just not paying attention to that. And so, Janet, I wanted you to give a little background in how this happens, how Angel ends up homeless, how our kids are ending up homeless. Can you do that?
Yes, I can. So we know that one of the major drivers of youth homelessness is, of course, our foster care, child welfare, and probation systems. So those are one of the, I would say that's the number one driver of youth homelessness.
Foster care,
our child welfare system, as well as probation.
And probation.
The second driver of homelessness currently at this present time is the cost of housing. Yes. I mean, the rent burden of trying to afford housing, especially for a young person, I mean, it's astronomical. And most people don't know that the average income that a young person receives a year is about $5,000. So between that 18 to 25 age, I mean, they're pretty much cost out of housing. And if they don't have a support system or any additional resources coming either from a household, if they are from a household, it's difficult.
Yes.
It's extremely difficult. And then I would say that the last driver is really around kind of the social, emotional, mental health part of how our youth are surviving and thriving, especially in a period where there is a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely. These are uncertain times, and no question about it. And at your tender age, our circumstances have been up in the air for a while. It's not new, and this baby's been caught up because of that. And the truth is, rent in this city is ridiculous, and the landlords don't care. They really don't. And the shame is that the county supervisors have just had to go back after rent control, trying to implement that, because not only are they hurting our youth, they're hurting our seniors as well. So when we talk about, we have a lot of issues, we really do. So we want to cover a little bit about that, because this is a hour where we try to discuss the issues and then come up with a solution. And from where I'm sitting, I don't think enough of us really understand how many of our kids are in need of housing. We're not paying attention to it. Right here on this boulevard, we have homeless youth. Right here on Crenshaw. They have no place to go. And I want to thank you, Janet, for reminding me that foster care does play a role in this, because we know as adults that have worked, an 18-year-old doesn't have any job skills to go work and pay rent in Los Angeles. So when he's kicked out of foster care, she's kicked out of foster care, where does she go? Where do they go for that beginning? You see? And it just kind of feeds into the homeless population when they, what do they call you? Age you out?
Absolutely, when you age out of the system.
Age out of the system, yes. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. And I always say that there's two ages as it relates to aging out of the system, because either you're aging out at the age of 18, depending on how you came in, or you're aging out of the system at the age of 21, meaning that a young person may have opted to stay in extended care, but at 20, and they're part of the child welfare system up until their 21st birthday, but at 21, they age out. And to be quite frank, I mean, here in California, aging out at 18 and aging out at 21, there's no stark difference because they're both aging out into some of the same things, which is the high cost of rent.
Yes.
They're aging out into not having a livable wage or enough earnings to self-sustain or to support themselves. So that has been one of the greatest challenges. And they're competing, too, as far as employment. They're competing in a market for employment that now older adults are in. So there's less amount of employability resources that are out there, which makes it, I would say it makes it challenging.
Well, let's just tell the truth. They're 18 years old, without a job skill, not thrown out, aged out of foster care unless they volunteer to stay till they're 21.
Yes.
And even when they come out, they're coming out into an over-flooded, unskilled labor pool.
Absolutely.
Unskilled labor pool is overcrowded. And how are they expected to compete with that? At 18, this is their first time to be an adult, and they have to go out and compete in an unskilled labor pool against 100,000 other people. As you said, these jobs are being taken over by head of household, not 18-year-olds. Angel, let me get you in this conversation because Janet and I could talk about this for another hour. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you're comfortable sharing with us?
Well, I got into this because of an ex-boyfriend that I had. Well, two, actually, because, one was the start of how I even started talking to my last ex-boyfriend. And his story was that when he was 18, he was working and he was going to high school. But he decided to focus more on work. And since he decided to focus more on work, whoever he was living with had put him out. And then that's when he ended up on the streets of Hollywood. And eventually someone came and put him into a program, and then he let me know about the same program, and that's how I also entered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I think one of the things that Angela has mentioned as she gives an example of a young person is that, one of the things that we don't recognize anymore is how stressed households are to the point where young people not have to leave, but they are leaving because there's just not enough resources to stretch.
Yes, it's not.
And it's not like the day, my mom always used this term when because she's from Jasper, Texas, grew up in Rock Hill, and they would say, well, if Uncle Eddie wasn't doing so well, we would take Uncle Eddie in. If Sister May was this, then we would collectively, as a community, take in Sister May. Well, that's the country. And in the country, it's easy to share and grow food and do it, spread around your resources. But when you're in a community that's already strained, already stressed, already
Talk about
stretched.
A city.
Yes.
It's not a community, it's a city. Okay?
Exactly. You
can't even get down the freeways anymore. It's so overcrowded.
Absolutely. It's just become so difficult. And that's why we're starting to visibly see young people on the street.
That's a heartbreak for me too, because this is gang talk. And I started and have continued to be an advocate against the murder of our children. Okay? And for too many years, and I like to admit that most of the people that know me know how long I've been doing this. And the devastation and the joy, because there is joy in this. How many hundreds of our children were dying when I started, dying yearly. And it was like an alarm went off in my head, there's something wrong. something wrong. And I started looking for others that felt that way. And there were few. Back in 88, there were very few. But in the interim, not only have we awakened a little bit, but awakened enough to change that head count. You know, the homicide and gang violence in Los Angeles has dropped substantially. And after all these years, that's the best news that I could share tonight. We have not eliminated it, but it certainly is not at the level that it used to be. And the sad reality is that those that are still engaged are more interested in wounding you to get your attention as opposed to just committing murder. There's some line in the mind, well, maybe I don't want to go to prison for the rest of my life, so I'll just shoot you in the leg. You know, it's been, and I'm not really trying to make light of this, but there has been, from when I started, a lot more wounding than homicide. So that's something that has changed. And after all the deaths that I've attended and the sorrow among our mothers and really the siblings, it's the siblings that really get ignored. It really is. So Angel falls in the category of a sibling. She's at that age where the siblings have been overlooked, they've been dismissed, they haven't been brought into it to raise them up. Right. And here we have an example here at 22. Angel's still trying to find her place, aren't you, baby?
Yes.
Yes. Are you in school?
I'm looking to check into Santa Monica College for animation.
Okay. Great.
But until I entered the program, it was a little bit hard for me to focus on school because, of course, I have a lot of things going on in my personal life, which, you know, stems from my ex-boyfriend, like the one who I was like in a 3-year relationship with. But his life I took upon on my own. So I really represent the young ladies who fall in love with the bad guys.
The wrong guy.
Yeah.
We've all been there, honey. Look, I got some bad ones in my past, too. So, hey, look, the beauty is that you survived and you learned something.
Right.
You know, so go ahead, honey.
Oh, well, yeah, like, what started it was, I was working and I had my own car and, I was living at my dad's house. But then my ex had got shot and,
Dads don't like that in a boyfriend.
No.
No.
No, they don't. And he didn't have the type of support, family support that I had. And so I decided to take it upon myself to be that support. And that's when, everything kind of got really hard for me, of course, because my family didn't want to support me while I was supporting him. So, because they didn't really understand where he was coming from. And so the misunderstanding kind of rubbed off on me, and they started treating me how everyone else was treating him already. So I took it with stride, and I kept doing it, and me and him actually ended up living in my car because that's the best way I saw it fit. And when I lost the car, it was really hard. Like, I had to plead to my family to take me back in. But after that, like, my family relationship was kind of ruined.
It changed.
Yeah, and they saw me in a different light, and then from then they started really talking negatively towards me, and then they didn't understand how that kind of affected me on the inside. And it affected my work and my relationships with other people as well. So
can I just tell you, you were traumatized?
Yeah.
You were traumatized and not operating in your right mind the way your family thinks you should have. And I apologize for that. But a lot of our family rejects someone that's been victimized, especially in a shooting. They've got no empathy. The first thing they do is judge them. Oh, he's a gang member. That's why he got shot. Or he's hanging around gang. Or he's a wannabe. Or he's a thug. Or, we come with the label first.
Yeah.
Zero compassion.
You're right.
Okay? And if you're hooked up with him and willing to go with him, it's like, well, she's got to go bump her own head. It's like, if I can't convince her, and I'm going to be fair to parents, there is an age where kids seek their own level of independence, and they will challenge their parents' authority. It's like, you don't understand. I love him, and we're going to be together, and we're going to make this thing work. And your mom's sitting there saying, no. No, not my baby, not my girl. And your dad wants to hurt that guy.
Yeah.
Yes, you took my daughter from me. My precious daughter ends up with a guy that has her sleeping in her own car.
Yeah.
This is how dads think. Yeah. So I don't want you to feel like you're alone, because you're not. You're not, honey. No, you're not. And this is the transition of becoming an adult, having to leave the home, which is really the crib. You're stepping out from the crib into the real world. Yes, and you went into the real world. Okay, bless your heart. At 22.
Well, at that time I was 19.
I know, but I'm saying you're just 22 today. So look at all the things you've been through.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. For parents that want to protect you, it's like, I don't want to see my girls go through all that.
Yeah.
And if you were my child, I'd have tied you up. Yeah. Just to kind of, give you a little understanding how your parents felt about this. I'm sorry things turned out that way.
Yeah.
But as a parent with 2 sons and a daughter, I was hell on wheels. I have to be honest. They may still be angry with me because I was so hard on them. But in those days, they were shooting on my block, trying to kill the neighbors' kids my kids grew up with. And at some point, I got angry.
Right.
I got angry. And I turned from a potential victim into a witness, then into an activist. But that's how it started. When the bullets came in our home, and we were all hitting the floor, ducking, like so many other families were doing in the same time frame. You hear gunfire, everybody hits the floor. Well, we were doing the same thing. And it didn't stop the bullet from coming through the window. It didn't. And when it did, that's when I got enraged. It's like, who the hell's shooting at my... What? And I went outside and looking. You see, but it's things that we've been forced to accept.
Yeah. And
the sad truth is that your friend had a bullet wound in him that basically is what made your family make a judgment about him. They put him in a box.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say it was my mother, because I kind of convinced her, from moving to my dad's house, we moved to her house, and he was on GR. So what we did was we offered to pay something towards her rent, and as long as he had like a safe place to stay inside of, and she ended up kicking him out, and
let's not skip over that word.
Yeah.
A safe place for him.
For him, yes. Not.
Let's not go past that too fast. He has a bullet wound in him, and he's looking for you and your mother to make a safe place for him. What I'm trying to get at is how could that jeopardize you and your mother?
It wouldn't have, I don't know what was going on through her head.
Forgive me, Angel, because I put your boyfriend in a box just now. I sure did. I labeled him thug and just wrote him right off. And see, this is the thing that our young women have to understand. The danger. Whoever shot him, are they coming back for him? You see, I'm not asking you to answer that. Okay. This is the scenario. Are they going to come back looking for him? And we've had too many occasions where beautiful young girls like you have been killed because you were standing next to him.
Right.
You see, and so that plays a role in a parent's mind.
Right.
You know, it's just happened too many times. And actually, tell you a personal story. Young man came to pick our daughter up, and the first wrong move, he came at 11 o'clock at night. Okay? And instead of getting out and knocking on the door, he sat in the car and honked the horn.
Oh, that wouldn't happen with my daughter.
Oh, no. And not mine either.
Not going to happen with my daughter.
Not mine either. But he sat and he kept honking the horn till I called her. It's like, who is that? I thought the guy was for somebody else in the neighborhood. No, he was coming for my girl. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? She says, oh, he's a friend of mine. I just met him again. We went to school together. They went to high school together. But I just met him again recently, and we wanted to just spend some time together. But he's from a different neighborhood, in a different gang, and he can't get out the car in my neighborhood because it's the gang that he fights against.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know what I did? I told her, go home and tell your friend to go home. Tell him to leave now. And I was real serious. It's like, look, what he doesn't understand, I don't want him. You're not getting in the car with him. That's the first thing. If he's afraid, you cannot get in that car with him if he's afraid like that, because I don't want you to get hurt. Then I told her, I don't want anybody in the neighborhood to get hurt either. So if he is a problem in this neighborhood, don't come over here. Don't come over here. But that's a mother handling my daughter's business.
Right.
She wanted to go see her friend. It's like, Mom's, oh, heck no.
Right.
If he's a riding target, you cannot ride with him.
Right. Right.
You just can't do that. See, so that's a mother's response to this.
Yes.
It's not you. She's trying to protect you.
Right, no, which is very understandable. And,
Yeah.
and you know, from hindsight, I'm realizing that now.
And I apologize. I really do.
No, you're fine. You're actually a lot nicer than a lot of people who know my story already. And you know, I'm just not one to like judge harshly. I've never been that way, and I've always, I guess you could say, the I don't know if they call them like beer goggles, like when you just look at everything so
Yeah.
like, okay,
Rosy.
like rose goggles. There we go.
Yeah.
You know, I no matter where no one comes from, I don't really judge, because I have, like, growing up, I had a abusive family. Like the way my stepdad and my mom kind of engaged with each other was very, very abusive, and I learned to love unconditionally in that way, because I knew I was supposed to hate this man because he was putting his hands on my mom,
Yeah.
but I didn't, because I still saw him as the only father figure who actually kind of helped raise me in a way. And I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, because, of course, my mom and him never really explained why those fights was happening. We just knew that they were happening, and we didn't really care to ask either, because it was very hard to bring up.
Those are the dynamics that kids are forced to watch, that have very little impact in changing, because those are the dynamics of the adults. And the only one that can stop that violence are the adults. See, so that puts you in a powerless position, and you just become the observer. And I've said this before to mothers. When you allow men to abuse you in front of your daughters, you teach her that's the acceptance. That's what you should expect. If he loves you, he may have to knock you around, because he's knocking me around. Maybe I had that coming. You see, it's sending you the wrong message. I'm not criticizing your mom. I just want women that allow men to abuse them in front of their children
Right.
to understand you're teaching them that that's what they're looking for. If he doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you.
Right.
We're sending them the
Absolutely.
wrong message, Janet. Get in this.
Self-love. But I think there's two things that you touched on that I think are critically important. One is the gang issue. Because when we talk about youth homelessness, and especially here within South LA, I mean, one of the number one things that we ask in an assessment is, where did you come from? Do you have any gang tattoos? Do you have certain neighborhoods? And youth will tell you. Youth are very, I would say, straightforward, because they'll tell you. They will. They'll tell you, oh, Miss Kelly or whoever they're working with, I can't come to your neighborhood because I may have, although I personally may not be involved, but I have a cousin, I have a brother or some extension where they can't go into certain neighborhoods. Right. And here within South Los Angeles, many of us work very hard to kind of site our program so that young people are able to have access to the services that they need because of what they perceive, one, as safety, and two, as well as their history with gangs. As it relates to Angel, I think what's really important that she touched on is how family relationships, once they break down and it leads to homelessness, what the devastating impacts are to young people. Because not only, one, do they have to deal with the trauma of leaving a family conflict, but they also have to deal with the trauma of being on the street, such as losing a car, and then trying to regain and rebuild your life again. And one of the things that she mentioned, which I always say this, housing is the greatest stabilizer, because she can't talk about employment, she can't talk about going to school unless her housing foundation is stable. And that's normally a point of entry for most young people, because without housing, there's not much you can do. You could try to survive by being employed, but that's only going to last so long. You could try to survive, with trying to find, but that's only going to last so long because you don't have a base. And I don't know any house that has survived without a foundation, without falling and crumbling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And in fairness to Angel, our homes have been crumbling since crack showed up, since gang violence showed up and took control of the neighborhoods that she lived in, I lived in. It's the violence that crumbled our foundation and scattered us and increased our homelessness because the addiction, the rent money spent the wrong way, kids out in the street without any place to call home because mom had been pulled out because of this addiction. And so we have a lot of young men that joined to keep mom home. And the most thing that they wanted really was the amount of money that was coming in, and then to keep mom out of somebody else's neighborhood doing wrong. Excuse me. So we have a lot of dynamics in play that caused Angel to be where she is now. And from where I'm sitting, they're the most important generation we need to be having our arms around right now.
100%.
100%. And that's really why you're here, Janet, because, we as the people are not paying enough attention to our own kids.
Absolutely. And, one of the things, I was sitting here and I was appreciating you, and the word "my dear" kept coming to my head. And I can't tell you why, but it literally was flashing, like literally in my head. Because, one of the things that I tend to do as a youth service provider is watch how adults engage with young people. Whether or not they have that ability to express the care and the compassion and the non-judgmentalness. Because everything that was coming from your spirit was, I'm serious, I was literally sitting here reading your spirit, was one of comfort, one of care. And I think people don't realize that young people in this generation growing up in a whole different atmosphere. It's like they're growing up in an atmosphere of hate. They're growing up in an atmosphere where violence is
a norm. It's a norm.
It's a norm. Yes. It's more than a norm, but it's like it's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's normal. That her generation. I can't tell you how many corners I've been on in this work to see the evolution from sorrow to another one. Oh well.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Well,
Yes.
I'm going to go over here. We're going to spill the Hennessy, raise a blunt, and then go on about our business. You see, and so there's become a little desensitizing involved in this with
Yes.
her generation. It's like they have become accustomed to seeing their peer group murdered. And
Right.
I'm sorry to say that, but her generation has become accustomed to this.
Right.
That's what brought me here, because the men that have been dying around you are the grown men that used to protect me when I was a child. We had the fathers in the village. That's who these men were. And they not only protected the mothers and the women, they protected their sons too. See,
You're right.
and now we're at war against ourselves. It's hurting our own children. And the apathetic are sitting by, letting a young, beautiful girl like Angel here suffer because of that. And we're not investing in trying to make a place for her, make sure she gets into school, make sure that, and thank God for you, making sure that she has a foundation where she can move some kind of way, not just be stuck in the same place.
Right.
So Janet, I just want to thank you. I want to thank God for you. Really.
Oh, thank you. Believe me, I couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
This is for me my divine walk.
Yes. Yes.
This is my divine walk.
Yes. And I'm grateful to God for opening that spirit in you, because you see that our kids deserve better than what they're getting. And you have put yourself in a place to make sure if there's anything you can do, you're going to be there to do it. And so bless her heart, she's here. Yeah. Look at this beautiful girl. Come on, family. This is our daughter. Don't you care about her? Don't you think she deserves to have a chance in this world? Especially those of us that have achieved some success. Don't you think we owe it to her generation to give back? Look at this child, 22 years old, traumatized in ways that you'll never understand because you haven't had to walk in her shoes. But these are the children of our village, and Janet, I just thank you. I really do. As I'm making my exit, I'm looking for somebody to come through that door, and here you are. And look what you're doing. And I want to put that shine on you so we will wake up and see this is our job.
Absolutely.
She's our responsibility. And I'm sorry your mom had that conflict. You see, this is the sisterhood that's missing. In that, in those days, the women of the community would have come to your mom's aid. They would have tried their best to come to your mom's aid. It's like, girl, you ain't got to put up with that. Mm-hmm. Then there would have been some of the fellas in the brotherhood that were taking your stepfather aside and told him, hey, keep your hands off of her. You see, so these are the people we used to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this baby hasn't even had a chance to know what that feels like, except for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have somebody care about her. And that's really what our children deserve, is to see us care about you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am so thankful I found this program, because I stepped into a house where the adults in the house are very loving and understanding, and when they hear all my story, they don't judge me. Mm-hmm. They give their opinions, of course, but not like how you are right now. They don't give it from a judgmental and more of a you're wrong.
You're not old enough to be wrong, Angel. You haven't lived long enough to be wrong. So nobody has a right to judge you unless they've walked in your shoes. Mm-hmm. And you've had some shoes to walk in, okay? It ain't like it's been a sweet ride. It ain't like you lived or were raised in Disneyland. There's no fantasy up in here. This is the reality of who we are and the things that we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. You see, so nobody has a right to judge you. Not at 22.
I honestly don't think any human being has the right to judge another, because we're all equal no matter what we've been through.
Well, you're right to some extent, but I did go to Ceasefire last night, and because that's the organization that actually got me on the radio. Ceasefire and Watts Gang Task Force is what got me on the radio, because I wanted our community to know what was going on in those rooms and what we were as a community were discussing. Right. And very powerful movement that's really made the difference in the homicides. All these years it's taken for these community-minded, community-spirited people to work together to reach out to the core, reach right directly to the core, and bring them to the table of peace. And it's gone around. It's gone around, and it's been so effective that now they do a lot of reaching out by phone. By phone. Yeah, by phone. They call up and say, hey, OG, I hear there's some stuff going on over in your neighborhood. What's it going to take to resolve this? You see, and so it's taking a different approach. It doesn't have to be a face-off.
Right.
This leadership is speaking to this leadership one-on-one and trying to squash whatever beef is going to create a war or get somebody harmed. So that's the good thing about what's changed. But in the interim, we still have angels. We still have angels, yes. Male and female, stuck in a place that has no exit except for somebody like you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I always say this. What do we want our village to look like?
There it is.
Because if we want to have a village for young people where they don't have to enter into homelessness, then we need to make that as a priority of our village. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get out of this conversation, is because all of us play a role in ending and preventing youth homelessness.
Yeah.
The prevention piece is probably the most critical, because once a young person is out on the street, it's very hard for them to get back up on their feet again.
Yes.
And it takes angels. It takes each and every individual to be a part of. I always say our anchor communities, because it's we're the anchor.
Yes.
So
we're supposed to be.
We're supposed to be. But if our anchors aren't there, then we're just going to be sailing and waddling out in the sea. Mm-hmm. And we, again, really need to relook at what do we want our village to look like, and how do we create the support and safety net systems for our young people so that they don't have to spiral into homelessness.
Right. And I hate to put it this way, but as I said, and I'm going to keep on saying it, the unskilled labor pool is flooded. It's flooded. And so...
Say it again.
Flooded. Okay, F-L-U. Okay, it's flooded. And how are our 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds supposed to migrate in that arena? One language and no job skills. You see, and these have been the things that have closed the doors of opportunity for her age group. You got no job skills, no job experience, and you only speak one language. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but I've seen an awful lot of my people lose out because of those three.
Yeah, no, the main people who hire us are the temp agencies.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to replace you. So if you mess up one little time, you're done for.
And let me say this in fairness to you, because of your age, you're expendable.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And in fairness to you, I've been through that too. Yes, I was expendable. When I was your age, I was expendable too. So I had to go to school and get a job skill. It wasn't even enough for me back in those days just to work. No, I had to have something that made me employable. Right. This is why you want to get stable, so you can go to Santa Monica College and learn that animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best thing for your generation. You get to pick the thing that you like to do most, invest your study time in learning that, and then be good at it.
Exactly.
Oh, well, I wasn't expecting that. Uh-oh. Yeah, because, we have cell phones off, and people know what I'm doing at 6 o'clock on Thursday, so I don't know why they sent me a message. Maybe I should look at it, but you guys go on and talk. Tell me what we need to know, Janet.
I think what we really need to know is, one, we have a crisis right now. I think that's what we pretty much started off at. And the crisis is that, one, Los Angeles, the state of California, is rent burdened.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it's a young person that's exiting out of the child welfare system or one that's had to leave their home because of a stress household. There is a market out there that they can't enter. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming extremely difficult.
Yes.
And it's really important. I mean, it's really important. Right now, Prop 10, most people have seen it. The rent is too damn high.
Oh.
The rent is high.
It is.
So,
it's too damn high. Just like you said. Come on, let's tell the truth, okay?
So, there's a big push out there to do something about rent control across this whole state. Mm-hmm. And it's on the ballot in November. And one of the things that we can do to help support not only young people, but all the people who are rent burdened, mm-hmm. is by supporting Prop 10.
Yeah. Well, I'm not familiar with
mm-hmm.
Prop 10, but I am familiar with the spike in rent mm-hmm. in this city and the lack of concern from the owner, landlord. They'll tell you very clearly, this ain't personal, it's business.
Right. Yes, and the challenge of corporate landlords, because a lot of corporate landlords have bought up a lot of land, and they've even bought up a lot of land here in South Los Angeles, mm-hmm. and it's just the rents are skyrocketing, and because of the skyrocketing rents, I mean, we need to ensure. South Los Angeles was one of the most affordable places that one could live at one period of time. Right now, it's not affordable. Mm-mm. Almost the average rent for a one-bedroom is close to almost $1,600.
Yes, it is.
That's a mortgage for some people.
Yes, it is. And truthfully, that's not a mortgage anymore. It used to be a mortgage, but now it's just straight rent. Right. Because the cost of home ownership is mm-hmm. also increased at the same time. So, I worry about Angel's generation being able to afford to buy a home in the future of this city.
Right.
It looks like they're more interested in building apartment units than selling homes. Because, as I said, the landlord said it ain't personal, it's business.
Right.
And if I have a 40-unit building,
right.
I'm getting paid, and you're paying me. And if you ain't paying me, hit the door.
Right.
Get out. You see? So it's become very, I don't even have the right word for it, but landlords don't care. They don't care. It's about rent. And as I see more apartment buildings going up and less young African Americans buying homes, yes. I know that there's a plan to make sure that there are always going to be renters. So I haven't figured out what the solution is. Mm-hmm. I just know that in my neighborhood, as the elder people have moved out of their single-family homes and others have moved in, they're renting the apartments now.
Right.
In that single-family home.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think what you pointed out is the whole idea around black wealth retention. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we don't discuss even with young people at an early age, where other households talk about their wealth strategies. And retaining black wealth or retaining that wealth within our communities is important.
It's very important.
It's just so
It's the anchor
important.
that subsidizes her future. We need our black wealth to be in a place where she can see it. And you know what? The sad reality for her generation, the black wealth has only shown up in the rap community, in the music community, in the sports community. Where are the professionals, the teachers? I have one friend who's an attorney, and I love him, but he's only one I know. An African American. He's maybe 10 years older than you, maybe a few more years than that. But the point is, I don't see any black attorneys that I kind of grew up expecting to see African American men be an accountant, be a teacher even. You see?
Right.
And these are jobs that our kids are not maneuvering into. They're really not. And they're expected to be accomplished, but where?
Right.
Where are they supposed to go? Go get a mic and rap, get on YouTube, do a video, get on Snapchat. Really, where do we get our new black wealth coming from?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Angel mentioned that she wants to get into animation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one way you could put her on a path to not only long-term resiliency, is helping to support her goal.
Yes.
As far as achieving her animation dream.
Yes. I think our black wealth needs to open some scholarship doors.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Look, usually we don't drop names on this show, okay? We don't. We'll tell about you, but we never tell your name. But I'm just going to put it out there. I want Kendrick Lamar and Dr. Dre to come together and put that musical art facility that they had talked about a few years ago in Compton. In Compton, they talked about building a music facility to teach kids everything from instruments to reading to performance art. This is the kind of black wealth we need to come back and establish a place. What a beautiful idea that she could be a first black animator doing a beautiful black girl.
Well, yeah.
You know,
you're speaking into your existence.
I'm telling you, all kinds of possibilities here for you. And that's the beauty about where we are right now. What's changing things for us as a people really is social media.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, actually, YouTube is one of my passions growing up because I've always watched people come up off of it, but because they were so persistent in what they were passionate about. And one of the things I'm passionate about is cartoons and video games. Okay. Oh my goodness. I actually have a few cartoon ideas just based off of my life experience because I did used to be a dog groomer, and I always like seeing like the little animals talk and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you know, I had pets, and I honestly wanted to base it off of when I was dog grooming and my pets, and then my friends' pets, my friends being my coworkers, their pets and everything. And it helps teach, you know, kids that there's other jobs out there other than, you know, just working in a store. Because I never even thought of being a dog groomer ever. I actually came upon it when I was trying to be a vet, and then noticed that it is more fun to cut hair on a dog than to give them shots and, you know, euthanize them and stuff. So I that's how I got into dog grooming, which was a wonderful experience. And it like I said, it's just an experience for me as a future animator to tell a story about. And also the video games can be a lot better too, because I grew up playing Grand Theft Auto, but I don't really like it because it does teach kids to be very violent.
Yes. Well, Grand Theft Auto is one of those games I didn't want my kids to play, and they snuck and played it anyway.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give them the money to buy that darn game, and they took their allowance and put that money together and bought that darn game and played it when they didn't think I knew. You know, so kids go around you.
Right.
You know, that's all I'm saying about that. But no, it was violent, and I really didn't want my kids to play it, but I couldn't stop them from playing it. And that's just the phase that we were going through, that violence. And the worst part of that is that they were glorifying it.
Right.
Yeah, somehow they sound, it's okay to be this violent. Yeah, you stealing cars, shooting people, yeah, that's fun. Really? Don't we have enough of that going on in front of us in the street outside? And now we're in here playing video games that speak to that kind of violence. And so it's a way to anesthetize our kids, anesthetize them, you know. And I'm so sorry about it because it's been a generational thing that's affected you.
I didn't really like to play the game that often. I mean, I like to drive around, but I never really did the missions to where you had to, you know, It was hard, and I didn't want to always die, so I was like, fine. I'd rather just drive around in cars.
Well, in fairness to you and your generation, I lost track a long time ago when the music changed and the game started changing, and because it started out as Pong. Was that the first game, Pong? And then they got the video game, and then Mario Brothers. That was just so innocent, and kids seemed to enjoy it. But then it evolved. It evolved, right. And I left it. Because I wasn't a participant. I wasn't playing the games. I was doing other things. But my kids, this is what raised them: video games. And our youngest son, Grand Theft Auto all day long. It's like,
they actually, it was I remember the games being a lot more explicit when I was younger. Like the Grand Theft Auto games, I'm pretty sure because of laws or something. I don't know what it was, but they started making it a little bit less graphic.
Less graphic, yeah. Yeah. Just the idea, and in fairness to the game, I really don't know the point of it. What's the victory in it? Which is the same question I ask a gang murderer. What's going to be your victory at the end of this? You want to kill every black man that looks like you. What's it going to take for you to stop?
Right.
So we've had to ask very realistic questions in this arena. And what I want our listeners to see is this is the victim. You see her? She's the victim of our silence. And our silence is equal consent. It's okay for her to be traumatized. It's okay for her to be homeless. It's okay as long as it's not in front of me. We've taken that approach and left our kids abandon them. And folks don't really understand how many kids that belong to us got put into foster care, got aged out of foster care. When they aged out of foster care, they went into homelessness too. Unemployment, all kinds of devastating things that happened to them because they were taken out of a natural environment, put in a strange environment, and then they reached age, get out. And a few years ago, they were put out without even a Social Security number. So, we as a community have had to go back after them for those kind of things. And the most hurtful part of foster care in those years was a complete separation from the family. No aunts, no uncles, none of that. And, some kids grew up under that system not knowing that they had 5 aunts over here and 2 uncles over here. And, I never knew. I never had any access to them. They couldn't take me, so we have a lot of issues. Foster care just kind of took over in a place that really wasn't very successful to retain black families. Okay, they call themselves helping our kids, but at the same time, you devastated this family, and you left this child out here with nobody.
Right. And what you're speaking to, too, is the importance of placing young people with relatives. Because it's better to place young people with relatives and people that they are more likely to have a connection with than it is to place them with someone.
A stranger.
Or who will not. And, one of the challenges that I would say I have observed, because I have to speak in the I statement here, is that, oftentimes those systems operate under implicit bias. And because of its implicit bias, don't realize how disruptive they are to the families, to the point where not only they're causing homelessness for the family, but they're causing huge disruption for the young people that will start a longer term spiral into homelessness. And that's something that I think as a community, at some point we need to step up and say, no more.
Can you just step back for a minute and just what you just said? Imagine the economy that we have built and supported in social service. We have put their children through college. Mm-hmm. We paid their house notes. We bought them yachts just by being their product. You see, and social service is interested in keeping social service operating with a full budget. If they don't have a client, they're going to lose money. So what's their motivation to really manage foster care, to really get these kids healthy? They're going to lose some income along the road. See, because she's not going to need social services anymore. Once she gets on her feet, that's one less check.
Right.
Okay. And this is really, when you say we need to do something about that, we need to remove ourselves from out of that system and stop kidding ourselves that they're here to help.
Yes. And oftentimes folks aren't able to see kind of like what the costs are. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, you know, a lot of times when young people, and I'm just going to speak just young people that I know that have had their children stripped from them. They have their children stripped from them. They live here in South LA, but they put the child in Lancaster.
Yes.
Knowing that you're homeless, knowing that you don't have like a very stable income. So what happens is that, you know, sometimes if a young person can't get enough funds to kind of get to their appointment on time, they get a ding in the court because, oh, well, you really don't want to see your kids, but you see how they made this effort to garner enough funds to try to get to their kid and try to get there on time, a lot of times traveling by bus. So you know it's going to be unpredictable.
From as South to whether LA to Palmdale.
Exactly,
yeah, sure.
To get there. And then they'll say, okay, by the way, you need to go to this course, and then maybe you got to go to this.
Yes.
And so the whole transportation piece of it becomes very expensive.
Yes.
And then while at the same time, the young person is trying their hardest. And when I say hard, they're trying their hardest to do all the things to get their child back, but there's that social cost.
Right.
And then there's that physical cost.
Yes.
And then oftentimes it's the threat of, you know, you may not get your child back because we want to take your privileges away. So
there's so many hurdles. There are so many hurdles. Once you get in there, here comes a hurdle, here's another hurdle, here's another hurdle. But I noticed we went so fast, we out of time. And I want you guys to have say something. We talked about this before. Yes. This is your moment to share that parting thought.
Well, I just want to say that just be kind to everyone you come across because you never know what they're really going through. And your kind words could really help someone because your negative words can also really harm them in a way you would never understand.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I think really quickly for me is I want the audience to know that our young people do have hope, they do have promise, and they do have potential. And anytime that they encounter them, have those three things in their mind.
Yes. That's good. That's good. And Angel, I want to thank you for coming and being the face of our agenda tonight. Because look, this baby needs a scholarship.
Yes, she does.
And I know somebody's out here that can pick her up and carry her to her destination. So we're looking for you to step up, come out, show yourself, and make things happen for our kids. So God bless you. Thank you for coming, Janet. Thank you, Precious Angel, for being here. God bless you, community, family, and Gang Talk will be back next week.
The Consortium of Health and Military Performance, also known as CHAMP, of the Uniformed Services University of Health and Science, known as USUHS, is conducting a study to understand a possible genetic link between sickle cell trait, known as SCT, and exercise-related events, known as EREs, such as exertional rhabdomyolysis, muscle damage, heat stroke, and or collapse. We are inviting African-American men and women with sickle cell trait and their family members to participate. Participating in the study will require you to complete a health history questionnaire, a form authorizing our study physician to gather health information from you and your healthcare provider, as well as a one-time blood donation. In order to qualify for the study, you must meet the following criteria: be African American, be sickle cell trait positive, be able to read, speak, and understand English, be between the ages of 18 and 80, and currently not being treated for any mental or psychological disorders. Participation is completely voluntary, and your decision will not impact your healthcare. The results for this study are for research purposes only and are not intended to directly benefit any individual for confidentiality reasons. However, the results of this study are intended to help better shape policies and associated health risks affecting the SCT community. Participants may be compensated for their time. To join the study, or if you would like additional information regarding the study, please contact the study team by phone, area code 240-479-9514. team or email sctstudy-ggg@usuhs